Hi, I'm Claire. A year ago, Sans and I went on our honeymoon to Japan and had the trip of a lifetime. In this video, I will be recapping our trip via Lego Brick by creating some of our favorite sites and experiences we had. Since this was our first visit to Japan, we actually did a very typical itinerary. We started off in Tokyo, then stopped in Hakone on our way to Kyoto. After, we spent a few days in Osaka to then finish off our trip back in Tokyo. We loved our trip and can't wait to go back soon to explore more amazing areas in this beautiful country. Be sure to subscribe because I will be doing more of these kinds of videos in the future. Let's start off in Tokyo. With over 14 million residents, this is an incredibly dense metropolis. The city has both huge towering skyscrapers and small buildings that seem like they have been there for hundreds of years. The varying scale and size and modernity is one of the ways that Japan is truly unique and beautiful. We loved walking around and exploring relatively aimlessly because there is so much to see. Our first few days in Tokyo were structured by picking one main attraction or neighborhood and then either exploring while walking there or exploring once we took the train over. Day one was mostly getting settled into the hotel and exploring around after a long travel day. We went to our first convenience store, a used bookstore, a large department store, and our first dinner in Tokyo. Day two began bright and early at Sensoji, an ancient Buddhist temple in Asakusa. The temple grounds are expansive. Google Maps guided us first to the Kaminarimon, also known as the Thunder Gate. Beyond is a long street full of vendors leading up to the temple itself. There is a garden to the left of the temple that reminds me of LEGO's Tranquil Garden set that came out last August. This is an incredible build and I recommend the set completely. The build techniques and processes are so fun and it's such a beautiful display piece. I would love to add the set and make it work for my LEGO city. If you didn't know, I typically am creating custom builds and shrinking down my favorite sets to work in my smaller scale LEGO city. For my scale, I took off all the parts on the base that made it more of a display piece. I then continued the water and rock work to complete the circle so that the water element didn't just cut off randomly. Finally, I built a masonry retaining wall and walking path all the way around the set. This will make the perfect centerpiece for my new neighborhood. After walking around the temple grounds and indulging in plenty of snacks, we started walking around the area and made our way over to one of the side streets. Since it was still really early in the morning, a lot of the retail stores were still closed. We still had a great time looking around and even found this Hello Kitty store that had a giant version of Hello Kitty on the front. Even though we didn't get a chance to go inside because it was still closed, I still decided that this would be a neat LEGO build. I started out by first making the front facade because this would be the most challenging part of the build. I essentially created a large, basic white box that I could attach the giant Hello Kitty face on. The door was designed to look like an apple that you walked right through. This posed a little challenging, but I was able to make the shape work with plenty of red slopes, tiles, and plates. After a few different attempts for her dark blue body, I found that 2 simple plates was the right decision. Finally, her face, hand, and bow are comprised of large plates, while her eyes and nose are a couple simple 1x tiles. Finishing off the facade with the apple stem, I'm quite happy with how this turned out. Since we didn't actually make it into the interior of this store, I decided to take inspiration from the other stores we visited, like the Pokemon Center and other Hello Kitty stores. Most of the downstairs is a large plushie display where I packed the shelves to the brim with small animals we had in our collection. This wall is where the books and stationery are sold, something in every Sanrio store. Finally, I added a register and placed a custom Hello Kitty piece that I picked up a few years ago. Right next to the Hello Kitty store in the same neighborhood was another small building that I really liked the textures and colors of. I knew that I wanted to make it out of Lego. I also thought it was the perfect place to create a Japanese convenience store. At this point, we had been a couple of times and had realized that this would be a core staple for our snacks and meals throughout the trip. I love the multicolored building and mimicked that with the exterior of my build. I also added a few subtle details and architectural reveals using jumper plates to offset the bricks. I also included a balcony and a parapet wall. The interior includes some basic essentials that make up the Japanese convenience store. First, I built up a beverage cooler for coffees and sodas. Next up is a candy and snack shelf with a hot tap at the bottom for filling up ramen bowls. I created a hot food counter for hot dogs, corn dogs, and fried chicken with newspapers and magazines on the bottom. Finally, I included a small cash register to sit right next to the hot food station. After leaving the Asakusa area, we made our way over to Chuo City, to Sushihan Zeidaku-don for lunch. The seafood place went viral last year and had a really long line, but I insisted on waiting. While in line, Sans explored the local Pokemon Center and found a Lego model of a local department store. The building that the restaurant is in is a typical multi-use Tokyo building. The bottom floor is a restaurant, while the top floor is a mix of apartments, offices, and other bars and restaurants. In my build, I kept the overall color scheme of blue, white, and beige. I created a sliding door entrance to the restaurant with a sign-up sheet even posted on the outside of the building. I kept the drain pipe, air conditioning unit, and a similar pattern as the original build. Even though I wasn't 100% sure what the other entrance to the building looked like, I also included it and some of the signage on the outside. The main facade of the building is littered with signs and images, which is really what inspired me to build this MOC in the first place. I used a couple Ninjago stickers from set 70607 Ninjago City Chase to add some signage. I thought these worked all right, but I really wanted to test my hand at printing some of my own stickers. I thought this would really give the Lego build a similar look to the original building. I used an app on my phone to scan the images of the building that I had and got from Google Maps to translate the signage and then recreate it on my computer after downloading a Japanese keyboard. After printing these clear stickers out, I'm pretty happy with them. They serve their purpose for this design, and I feel like they really elevate it. I even recreated this chicken and drink image for another bar or restaurant that was in the building. I really wanted to keep the original Japanese language on the building, and I'm happy that I went ahead with this additional challenge. If you were curious what this place served and what made it such a long line, they served these gigantic bowls of raw fish chopped up over some rice. When you're almost done with your bowl, the chef will add a seafood hot broth at the end to finish off the meal. I definitely recommend this place and would strategize how to wait in a shorter line next time. After lunch, Sans took me back to the Pokemon Center. We tried to and failed to get into the Pokemon Cafe, walked over to our first official LEGO store in Japan, and continued our afternoon and evening by trying out McDonald's Japanese specialties and spending money at gacha machines. When creating this extension to my LEGO city, I knew I wanted the scale of the streets to be smaller than what I originally had. Therefore, instead of using the 32 by 32 base plates that I used to create my roads and sidewalks in my city, I opted to use 16 by 16 base plates instead. This narrow street and variation in tile pattern with 2 by 2 and 1 by 2 dark bluish gray signifies a new neighborhood. I would eventually like to create some of the amazing vehicles I saw in Japan for this neighborhood as well. Sans is a huge fan of K-trucks, and creating a few 3 to 4 wide stud ones would fit perfectly here. Finally, I started to build some of the entourage I want to add to this neighborhood. I started with a small electrical post with signage and advertisements. The bottom has a couple planter boxes. The signs were made out of a few of the video tiles, which I feel are perfect for this application. This is the first of many that I want to make to disperse throughout my cityscape. After laying out my 3 new builds and 1 modification, this new neighborhood and my image of building my trip to Japan really started coming to life. I pulled a couple builds from previous videos, the Sardine factory and the Monkey Kid Buildings modification, to add to this square. I think these go pretty well and are starting the transition between the 2 neighborhoods. I'm not completely sure how I'm going to tie the 2 city neighborhoods together just yet. Let me know down below if you have any ideas. I placed a few temporary car builds from previous videos and a few minifigures around the streets to bring it all to life. That's it for the first few days of our trip to Tokyo. I will be continuing the series in hopes of taking you along on our epic trip throughout Japan. I'm excited to continue expanding this new part of my city and make more buildings I was inspired by out of LEGO. Let me know if you enjoyed this new style of video for me, and if you've been to Japan or anywhere else and wanted to come home and build what you saw on your adventures. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to see many more videos like this in the future. Additionally, I will be creating a longer vlog from our trip on my second channel, Claire Sophie, which is linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!